President Trump was asked if he'll tackle the deficit in his second term by a CNBC host here. And he was asked, specifically how he'll do that. So in other words, he was presented with two options. Are you going to raise taxes? Are you going to cut spending? That's the question. Hey, man, are you going to address the deficit in your second term? And if so, are you going to do it by raising taxes or are you going to do it by cutting spending? Watch this back and forth. Pay attention to his answer because it's basically the dumbest possible answer you could have given.
We had one of your guys, the NEC director, Lawrence Kudlow, on yesterday. We asked him about deficits, and we asked him, we acknowledge that you wanted to rebuild the defense industry, and you had to agree to certain things with the Democrats. In the second term, will you look at... Big focus. Will you look at, do you need to raise taxes or do you need to cut spending?
We're going to actually probably lower taxes, if you want to know the truth. You know, if you take a look at what we've done, we've cut taxes in half. And we've taken in more revenue substantially than we did when the taxes were high. Nobody can even believe it. But we take in more revenue with the big tax cut. I mean, you were paying really 41%, and we brought it down to 21%, and it's sort of lower than that.
That will be a priority.
Oh, absolutely.
That is not true. If what he was saying is true, we would be reducing the deficit. Here's what really happens. Federal deficit increases 26% to $984 billion for fiscal year 2019, highest in 7 years. So he's asked, hey man, are you going to address the deficit? Because it's a big, right-wing talking point, especially on CNBC, because they're obsessed with, this is the corporatist channel through and through. How are you going to address it? Are you going to address it by raising taxes, or are you going to address it by cutting spending? Now, this is what's called a softball down the center of the plate. For any other Republican, you go, okay, hit that, go. And they could easily knock it out of the park. You want to know why? Because the Republican ideology 101 is, I'm going to cut spending. That's what they'd say. Now, the one, cutting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security is what they mean, but they wouldn't say that because they know that that's not popular. So you just say, we're going to cut spending. We're going to reform entitlements. That means cutting Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. That's what that means. But Trump is too dumb to even give that answer of, I'm going to cut spending, obviously. I'm not going to raise taxes. I'm a Republican. He says, I'm going to cut taxes. You're going to cut taxes. You're asked a question about the deficit and how you're going to address it. And your response is, I'm going to cut taxes. By cutting taxes, you are further cutting revenue coming into the government, which means your deficit, which is already exploding, is going to explode even more. And look at how the CNBC host lets it slide right by. Why? Because they literally believe in, and this isn't me speaking now, this is George H.W. Bush who said this back in the day. They believe in voodoo economics. Why? Because they think, really? Magically you're going to cut taxes and somehow that's going to increase revenue to the government and somehow that's going to make your deficit a surplus? At face value, that makes no sense. Because their argument is, you can thank Art Laffer for this, who's a moron. He was like, if you cut taxes, specifically for the rich and the corporations, what happens is you unleash the beast of the free market economy, and there is so much economic growth that even paying a lower rate means the government is getting more revenue. Now, they have tried this since the 1980s. It has never worked. Ronald Reagan had a record debt and deficit because this is nonsense. George H.W. Bush, same thing. Donald Trump, same thing. If their theory was correct, there would already be a massive reduction in the deficit, but it's increasing every year. So, you know what happens when you actually cut taxes? You cut revenue into the government. You know what happens when you cut revenue into the government? You increase the deficit. So, but what I'm amazed by is there is no amount of reality that can penetrate that bubble and what they're saying and how brainwashed they are. There's no amount of reality. It doesn't matter. They will cut taxes for the rich and corporations until the cows come home. The deficit will continue to explode, and they'll keep saying, we got to address this deficit. Let's cut taxes more. Now, in the case of Trump, I think it's because he's dumb and he doesn't get it. But in the case of other Republicans, it's just a ruse. It's just a ruse. They know that it doesn't work, but they don't care because the main goal for them is let's have my rich buddies run out the back door with all the money. So I'm going to cut their taxes, and I believe in that. It's a principle of mine. I want to give the rich back as much money as I could possibly give them back. So, but with Trump, I actually think he's too dumb to get it. That he thinks like, it's tremendous, it's unbelievable. When I cut taxes more, the deficit will be impacted wonderfully, and we're already getting way more money coming into the government. It's really amazing. Nobody ever could have seen this coming. I'm not kidding. I could have gone back and got the specific clips, but they were saying that you will immediately start seeing a reduction in the deficit once they pass their 2017 tax law. And the opposite happened. The deficit skyrocketed. Now, by the way, I'm not a deficit fearmonger or anything. I'm not, that's not, oh my God, we need to balance it ASAP. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is they are empirically wrong in every single prediction that they made. And even when he's asked the simplest question where he could have just said there, oh, I'm going to cut spending, obviously. He's like, I'm going to cut taxes more. So you're going to do the thing that exacerbates the problem when you're asked about how to fix the problem. Brilliant.